Hello, everybody, and welcome to episode 12 of Play-by-Play, the daily wrestling podcast. With me, Atif Nawaz, your host, and with me, as always, is my man, the main man, the homeboy, Arman Kirmani. How's it going?
Generally, I am the homeboy because we're doing this in my home.
Yes, that's right.
So there you go.
You're the homeboy, man.
I'm well excited.
You most certainly are. Let's start the show before we get into the thick of everything we're going to be talking about by thanking our wonderful partners at eWrestlingNews.com. Make sure you check out eWrestling News. And also topropepress.com. You can check those guys out. You can find us on Top Rope Press as well. So and eWrestling News. So that's great. Thank you so much, everybody who gets in touch.
Really looking forward to our show today because apparently we've only been watching the product for a year. So,
yeah, I know, right?
So the quality of our insight apparently is
it's being questioned.
It's for the 2013 audience. So I am really excited about trying to get it as far as 2012 today.
Are you being a smark?
I am being a very smart.
Yeah, you're being a snarky smart.
Snarky smart.
You're being a snarky smart.
Who's truly a mark.
All right, well, we'll stop the rhyming there and tell you guys what's on the show today.
And let's open a can of whoop-ass.
Yeah, why not? Let's open a can of whoop-ass. We will be talking about Steve Austin a little bit, but the main topic for discussion is, of course, the big news that came out of WWE this week, which is that the venue for WrestleMania 32 in 2016 has been revealed to be the Dallas Cowboys Stadium in Texas, which I think is formerly called the AT&T Stadium.
What do you mean? It's not in Wembley?
It's not in Wembley, I'm afraid.
What do you mean? Why is it not in Wembley?
I don't know.
Why did John Cena lie to me?
You've got to write to your local MP.
Why, Vince? Why?
You've got to write to your MP. Anyway, so it won't be in Wembley, but it will be, I guess, at the next best place, which is the Dallas Cowboys Stadium, the AT&T Stadium in Texas. It has a capacity of 105,000 people. I believe that's the record attendance. The record attendance is just shy of 105,000 for the Super Bowl when it happened at that venue.
To be fair, I just realized it doesn't matter that's not in Wembley. Because SummerSlam is going to be in
Well, there you go.
Wembley.
SummerSlam's going to be in
SummerSlam, and give them our conversation time.
Yeah, we will. If you want to bring SummerSlam back to Wembley Stadium in the UK, and we're trying our best, we're trying very, very hard, pushing the WWE. We're tweeting all the people that we should be tweeting, and we're writing emails and all sorts. Make sure you do it.
Like Paige.
Like Paige, yeah.
Because she has all the saying where SummerSlam should be held.
And Bad News Barrett.
Yeah.
And and Adrian Neville.
Hey, hold on. Listen, guys, I've got to share something with you. I'm talking to the audience here.
Okay.
We had a conversation yesterday with the one, the only, Scott Hall on our Twitter yesterday.
Yeah, that's right.
How cool was that?
That's pretty cool. I mean, it was nice because what happened yesterday was there's some absolute loser on Twitter who was bad-mouthing Scott Hall's son for absolutely no reason. He had no idea who this guy was. He was making fun of him. And Scott Hall responded, and the internet wrestling community jumped to his support, which I'm glad.
And which we were part of.
Which we were part of. But I remember tweeting Scott Hall to say, wouldn't it be nice if you could raise his edge somebody through Twitter?
That's the knowledge we bring since we've been watching since 2013. Do you know what I mean?
I don't think they even called it the raises. They called it the outside edge, which always made in WCW, which always made me think of cricket. But anyway, so I said to him, wouldn't it be nice if you could raise his edge somebody through Twitter? And he replied saying, sure would.
I'm surprised you knew that finishing move because I'm sure they've never mentioned it
since 2013. Wow, okay, you're really burnt about this. I like it. You're really okay. Anyway, let's go back to the topic at hand. We spoke to Scott Hall, Razor Ramon, big fans, obviously. So it was a great thrill. We've been watching his work since at least 2013. So anyway, so it was very cool. But yeah, back to the topic at hand, which is WrestleMania. Now, the record attendance there is currently with the Super Bowl 103,000, roughly something like that. 105,000 if WWE were to sell out that stadium, or even get 100,000 plus fans into that stadium, right? They would have to break their own marketing record or their marketed record of 93,000 for WrestleMania 3. Yeah. Which is a marketed record. The official attendance for that was 78,000.
Well, they've got Hogan.
Yeah. The thing is, now they've got Hogan. Yeah. I think 28 years later to see how useful he is.
Topless Hogan.
So here's the thing, right? What are they going to do? How are they going to fill that stadium with 105,000 fans? Jim Ross had a suggestion on his podcast. He suggested that the event had to include Texas legends, Stone Cold Steve Austin and The Undertaker. Now, that's a heck of an observation. I think I'd love to see Stone Cold Steve Austin back. I mean, all my childhood, despite what some may say, but I've been watching him all my childhood. He was one of my favorite wrestlers of all time. He's had some of the most epic feuds, and he's done beautifully well for himself outside of wrestling as well. A great podcaster as well, of course. So I would love to see Stone Cold Steve Austin back in the ring. But I do fear for him because the fans, I mean, at Texas on Monday Night Raw, the Monday Night Raw in Texas recently, the fans didn't even know who the NWO were. They responded so weakly to the NWO. Well, I fear for Steve Austin.
One good thing is he doesn't or never had any hair in the WWF, which means when he comes back, he can't have any white hair. So that's one thing going in his favor. Because when you see Nash and when you see Hall coming in with white hair, that does put off some of the new guys or the 2013 demographic, as we've been told. But Austin coming back, I've got really mixed thoughts about this. I want him back, but I want to make sure he's in shape. I want to make sure that he's trained for 2 years, and most importantly, who's he going to face? Well,
just to go back on the point about him training, he's recently been training for a film that he's doing with Michael J. White called The Echo Effect, right? So it's supposed to be one of those action films that Steve Austin's getting famous for.
But we are 15 months away from this.
Yeah, but I mean, so he's in good shape now. Jim Ross attested to his fitness recently. He said he spent some time with him. He's in good shape, so that's great to hear. And he's relatively young. He's just turned 50, which in the wrestling business, and certainly amongst wrestlers, isn't particularly old. I mean, we're talking about Hogan's there. He's talking about having one more match at 60. And granted, he looks ancient. Steve Austin is of a different ilk. And the way he speaks about his fitness and everything on his podcast as well, I don't see why Steve Austin couldn't get himself into ring shape. The big question, as you say, is who would he face? How do you use someone like Steve Austin? Do you throw him in with John Cena, who I imagine at that point is still the biggest name in the industry? And then if you do you do it the same way as you did it with The Rock? Or do you build like a face-heel dynamic? How do you even start building a face-heel dynamic with Stone Cold Steve Austin? In my view, you can't. You'd have to throw him in there with a big heel.
I think that you go for a celebrity match and you bring in The Rock back and you have Steve Austin versus The Rock.
I don't know if that would resonate with fans like, on mass. Actually, The Rock is a movie star, so I see the appeal. I see why he could, in theory, bring people in.
I think that's the only feud, because there's two things, right? If Austin comes out for one more match, he has to go over. We can't be letting John Cena beat him, because that's not going to put John Cena over.
John Cena would happily, in theory, put him over.
But why would I don't see?
There's no value in it.
There's no value in it for Austin to beat Cena.
It has to be a heel, man, and it has to be a big heel. So depending on what they do with Bray Wyatt over the next year and a half,
I still disagree. I don't see, because the result going into that match. But if The Rock comes back, you're not sure.
Why would The Rock job to Steve Austin?
No, it's because they've got mutual respect. Well, either way, the way I look at it, it doesn't matter who jobs to who goes over or who doesn't, because Austin is over, the match is drawn, you're watching that final match. That could be The Rock's last ever match as well, by the way, right? The Rock's final match in WWE could be next year, could be alongside Austin. I don't think they ever need to wrestle again. That would be the way to sell 105,000 tickets.
Oh, okay, how about this, right? If you've got Stone Cold Steve Austin coming back as a face, obviously, because there's nothing, I don't think he could be anything else at this point, right? I don't know how he fits into the PG era of WWE. Obviously, in the Attitude Era, he was throwing a lot of middle fingers around. He was swearing a lot. They get a little bit of leeway nowadays, but not as much as they used to. So I don't see how Austin would fit into the PG era. But even so, imagine that he did.
And he's got that WrestleMania 30.
Yeah, I guess so. For like a promo that he didn't even have to carry by himself, it's fine. And WrestleMania is the home of the hardcore fans, so maybe you're right in that regard as well. I tell you who I'd like to see Steve Austin against if he was to make a comeback. But it requires the booking to go a certain way for the next year and a half. Brock Lesnar.
That's the guy he famously refused to job to when he left the company.
In 2002.
Again, do I want to see Austin beat Lesnar? I find that one hard to believe with him not wrestling for all these years.
Steve Austin's a badass.
Yeah, well, I don't know. I'm not. Well, it's 15 months away. 15 months away. We could have brand new wrestlers coming up by then. God knows, we could have new storylines. Unlikely, but I'm not sure. I don't think that it should be a current guy from the roster. I think if we're going to bring back an Attitude Era star, give him the next biggest Attitude Era star, who's now even a bigger star.
Well, yeah, who's in The Rock. Yeah, The Rock is obviously a big movie star. But the thing is, I understand where Jim Ross is coming from. Steve Austin has to be involved for them to, especially in Texas, right? For them to pull that kind of crowd. There's no big Texans in the roster at the moment.
Let me ask you a question. Yeah.
JBL.
JBL. Let me give you a question.
Yeah.
I don't think that a deal's been agreed with Austin as of recording this podcast on January the 21st.
Yeah.
Therefore, McMahon is confident enough that he's going to have a big stab at 105,000 ticket sales, right?
Yeah, but he knows that he's still got that option of talking to Austin.
Right.
Austin's not going to say no to a big payday.
Right. But if he doesn't get Austin, he's still confident he's going to do it.
Because he's got the Taker, he's got Undertaker as well to go to.
Well, we might not even have Taker looking at his injuries. So now the question is, if they don't have Austin and they don't have Taker for whatever reason, Austin could get a big film, Taker might not recover and get cleared by his doctors.
Sure.
Hogan is definitely not going to be cleared by the WWE doctors.
That's all plausible.
So now how do we sell 105,000 tickets?
Do you have faith in the current roster, which is kind of famously being celebrated as one of the weakest rosters of all time? I know we're talking about another 15 months' time, but do you have faith in the current roster as it is to sell out 100,000 plus seats?
I never go against Vince. I think he'll have something up his sleeve. He's still got some stars there that will have another year of build-up. Daniel Bryan will be even bigger. Roman Reigns will be bigger. All the Shield guys will be bigger. Brock Lesnar may not be around. CM Punk would be in the pipeline for something like that. Well, that would be interesting. I'm sure a lot of people say
people keep talking about CM. Somebody I was listening to a different podcast yesterday, and they mentioned that they reckon CM Punk is a good outside bet to take part in the Royal Rumble this weekend.
Well, that'd be interesting.
That's ridiculous. That's absurd.
Well,
that's not going to happen.
The other thing is, if Punk gets wrecked in his UFC fight, then people will start talking him coming back.
I think Punk would rather go New Japan.
But the thing about Punk is that if WrestleMania is in Dallas, that's the wrong place for him to make a comeback.
True. If WrestleMania was in Chicago, I was thinking about this earlier. If WrestleMania 33 is in Chicago, that means they'll have about 3.5 years off since the last time they spoke. Enough water might have been gone under the bridge. Punk might be looking for a little bit more money. Who knows? He seems quite set on what he's doing at the moment, but you never know where you're going to be in a few years' time.
Yeah, for sure.
So you never know. Punk might be for 33, sure, or 34, whenever they do it in Chicago. But let's talk about this. Let's talk about Texas now. If they elevated, let's assume they elevate Roman Reigns as it appears they're doing at the moment. So Roman Reigns goes to WrestleMania 31, wins the World Heavyweight Champion from whomever. Let's say Brock Lesnar. Let's say Reigns beats Brock Lesnar in the main event of WrestleMania 31, goes over big, gets over big, right? It gives them a year to hold the title and become the kind of draw that they think they could rally behind, perhaps even build to a big big Roman Reigns John Cena match in the main event of WrestleMania 32. Again, it probably sounds horrible. Every hardcore fan listening to this right now wants to strangle me for suggesting that. But if they're going to invest in the time, the effort, the money, the promos, everything, and of course the time training as well, to build Roman Reigns as this John Cena-like larger-than-life company carrying on his shoulders type figure, then a Roman Reigns versus John Cena match should be a huge draw. That kind of match, if built properly, and I'm not saying give it a year-long build-up, but if built properly, could draw.
I think that you're right. One way or another, whatever anyone says, Cena does draw. For good or for bad, he draws.
With the right person.
Here's another name for you. Texas. Shawn Michaels.
Ooh, you think they could tempt Shawn Michaels out of retirement?
If you can tempt Austin out of retirement, Shawn can go until the day he's not.
So the thing is, Steve Austin never formally retired, right? So he never formally. Whereas Shawn Michaels on television did this proper angle where he said that I will retire. I'm not going to be like all these other guys like Ric Flair or whomever who just retire, who have a retirement match and then come out and have another match the next week. Yeah, Mick Foley made a mockery of the whole retirement thing.
Yeah, so did Hogan and Flair. In fact, Flair did a whole tour to TNA and did Australia versus Hogan.
Yeah, let's not talk about Ric Flair. I know you get a bit sentimental.
Let's never talk about that joke. But anyways,
legend.
But here's something. I mean, if you get Austin coming back, they never had that big match, Austin and Michaels, because of Michaels' injury.
Well, since WrestleMania 14,
right? And Michaels is a Texas boy. Triple threat, Taker, Austin, Michaels. That draws.
Well, there's two ways of looking at that. One, it's a dream match scenario.
Just do it.
But two, you're looking at a lot of guys who are massively past their prime that are not on the regular roster that would be coming in. 3 guys would be coming and taking massive paychecks away from everybody else.
Let me tell you something. As amazing as Austin is, he's the biggest draw out of all of them.
Oh, yeah, and within wrestling, without a shadow of a doubt.
In that trio, in that triple threat, he'd be the worst worker.
Of The Undertaker, I don't know. I mean, at this age, I don't know what Austin would be like as a worker now.
Well, listen,
his brawling style was over. In fact, the brawling style that WWE goes with in general now, that they force everybody to learn, and it's in their thing, is based on Steve Austin.
Listen, Michaels is in a different league to everybody as a worker,
As a performer, sure.
right? And Undertaker has got a legacy of working with his gimmick that nobody will ever match in character
At WrestleMania.
At WrestleMania. I'm telling you, if you think Austin's going to draw, you put all three in a ring. If that, you ask me the question, how are we going to sell 105,000 tickets?
Yeah.
I'm telling you, bring Michaels back. There's no way he can't come back for a match with Taker and Austin in Texas. Probably the last ever time those two will wrestle.
Man.
The biggest ever stadium to have the biggest ever challenge. He's got to be tempted.
So it wouldn't be for the World Championship, though. I imagine this is a secondary match.
I think this is way bigger than any World Championship.
A semi-main event type thing. But then So who the hell would follow that? Would you have like Roman Reigns versus Seth Rollins? Or I imagine.
No,
by the way,
I would close the show with that.
You'd close the show with a non-WWE Championship match.
Absolutely.
They've only done that once before.
What, when they had Bam Bam Bigelow versus Lawrence Taylor?
That's the one.
Yeah, there you go.
I'm surprised you knew that, having only taken up wrestling in 2013. 13, huh?
What can I say?
What can you say?
YouTube is so sick.
All right, okay, hold on. Let's backtrack here.
WWE Network.
Let's move away from the outside stars or the big stars or legacy stars. Okay, within the current roster, how would you build to making WrestleMania 32 the kind of must-see event that it has been in the past? Last year was a good WrestleMania for me. It delivered all the moments that the fans wanted, and I was one of them. I loved it, everything about it. I was a little bit concerned about the Brock Lesnar Undertaker result, like a lot of people were, but the Bryan win at the end made everything okay for me. Anyway, how would you make WrestleMania 32? So who would you? I'm just trying to work out what the card would look like and what you'd have to do over the course of the next year to get that card.
I think you'd need to get a mega heel turn from one of your big faces.
John Cena,
maybe Daniel Bryan, depending on how this year ends up for him.
Could you
maybe
imagine?
Roman Reigns, depending on how this year ends up with him.
But Reigns and Bryan are the big two faces.
Yeah. So any of these three guys, if they turned, and then on top of that, bringing back somebody who's got like a CM Punk factor. I'm not saying him necessarily, or maybe a Brock by then if he goes off TV. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
You'll need a big push. Plus the legacy stars. Triple H is still there and he still works.
Maybe like a celebrity match or something in the background. They've kind of avoided the celebrity involvement for a few years now.
Yeah, no, definitely.
So I mean, I know they have The Rock back. I don't count him. I still think of him as a wrestler. And then I haven't seen a celebrity. I can't remember seeing a celebrity properly since Floyd Mayweather came to WrestleMania, and he had that match with Big Show. And then they had Akebono versus Big Show as well. Big Show's in a lot of these gimmick matches. So anyway, I'd like to see a secondary match between celebrities or legacy stars. But the main event, as you say, I'd love to see a heel turn from John Cena, and then him taking on whoever the mega face at the time is, whether that's Reigns, whether that's Bryan, whether that's Ambrose, right? So he's in the picture. Whether that's Ziggler. It seems implausible, but a year is a long time. I don't know if a year is long enough for Ziggler to evolve into the kind of star that could draw 105,000 people. But Ziggler as a mega hot babyface versus John Cena as like the most hated heel since Hogan turned in '96, that could be a draw. Yeah,
well, the problem is, would Cena be hated if he turned heel? The problem is he'll start getting cheered by the male demographic.
In Texas? If he came, John Cena, if he does his rappy gimmick, right? You know the rapper gimmick he used to do, and he came out, cuts a horrible promo in Texas.
But the problem is, he's booed because he sticks to the PG status quo.
Yeah.
When he stops that PG status quo,
it's not just that.
Well, I'm not entirely. Well, it could be his moveset or whatever. But come on, man.
His promos are very one-dimensional. He's kind of pushed down your throat.
Well, they would not be one-dimensional if he does a heel turn. That's for sure.
No, absolutely.
And they weren't when he was a heel.
And you wouldn't see all these kids with John Cena merchandise, but you get all those classic. I'm sure Kevin Dunn, the head of production, would get those shots where all those little kids who were like crying that John Cena's turning heel. How would you even turn John Cena heel?
But here's the great thing: if Cena turns heel, the audience can't do anything about it, right? Because if they boo him, he wins. If they cheer him, he wins.
Yeah, of course. I see what you mean.
Do you see what I'm saying?
I think it's not difficult because it's Texas, right? And we got a little glimpse into Texas mindset this Monday on Monday Night Raw, right? So I don't think it's difficult to get the fans to play the role you want them to in Texas. I know WrestleMania, it won't reflect the Texas crowd necessarily. People flying from all over the world, right? There's a whole bunch of British fans who go over there. There's loads of people from Europe, from Canada, all everywhere, right? Who come for WrestleMania specifically, which is why I'm sure Dallas is ecstatic about securing WrestleMania, and of course the knock-on effect on the local community. But I just don't. I think if John Cena as a heel could come out and make the kind of promo that he used to at the expense of the crowd, and then you get your face in who's there to represent. I imagine someone like Daniel Bryan, maybe for that occasion, having like the Lone Star State style thing on his tights, on his wrestling tights. I don't know, the savior of I don't know, but I think it's plausible. Building to a mega face versus John Cena match for the World Championship, which you'd hope by next year has more, prestige, because of course Brock will have dropped it. We imagine Brock will have dropped it over the next 3 months at least, if not this Sunday at the Royal Rumble. I think that's the salvation for WWE.
Well, I love it if Brock had the belt all the way to WrestleMania 32.
Well, then that would be interesting. Obviously, you wouldn't see much of the belt, and that's not realistic. But let's say that happens, then you're in a really good situation, because then anybody who then beats Brock is instantly a mega face. Yeah. Then you can throw someone like a Ziggler in there, and instantly he's a mega face and somebody the crowd will buy into, especially if he does. I think next year at your Royal Rumble, you've got to have your face that you want to face, your face that you want to take on the heel champion at WrestleMania. He's got to go number 1 at the Royal Rumble. He's got to fight. He's got to be the longest Royal Rumble. He's got to win it against all the odds. It's got to be like full-on underdog Daniel Bryan style, right? But bigger, even more if they can. So, I mean, the WWE is obviously taking a huge risk. It would look quite bad for them if they only sold 80,000 seats. 80,000 would be a huge draw.
They'd still lie and say that they sold 100,000.
Well, I mean, if they sold 80,000, I'm assuming like 15,000 of that is papered anyway.
Sure.
Because, I mean, I read this note the other day that Bad News Brown, he asks for 150 free tickets every time he comes to a WWE.
Yeah. That's
hilarious. So I'm sure they can paper it. That won't be a problem. But yeah, I mean, so that's what we've been talking about, ladies and gentlemen. We've been talking about WrestleMania 32. How WWE can book it, or how they have to position their card to try and draw a record crowd for them and for the arena of 105,000, which is the capacity.
All right, here's another shout.
Go on.
Really quickly. If political tensions get worse between Russia and the United States.
Rusev versus an All-American who?
That's it.
Rusev versus Jack Swagger. Is that what you're saying?
Well,
main event of WrestleMania 32.
That's an outside shout.
Well, I don't know. Do they have any other Patriots?
What would be the odds? Well, they'll just create a Patriot gimmick for someone, won't they? Like Roman Reigns.
Oh, the Patriot Roman Reigns.
Yeah.
Mr. America.
So
the Patriot was Del Wilkes and Mr. America was Hogan. Yeah. But like, I mean, I don't know. The American male. Buff Bagwell.
Well, that would definitely sell 105 tickets, 1,000 tickets. So
Scotty Riggs, Buff Bagwell, the American Mills. Okay, so anyway, guys, that's what we've been talking about. Before we go today, we're going to give our Dean Douglas Award of the Day again. Now, the question that Arman asked yesterday was, of course,
which wrestlers had the most consecutive time in the Rumble without being eliminated? And that guy is Triple H.
Wow. Okay, so that's the total time spent in the Royal Rumble match.
Yeah. Across all the years.
Of course. I remember on Monday Night Raw when they did their by the numbers package, they gave it away. Right?
I think that's really impressive. I mean, of course, it's all scripted. I'm sure he's booked himself into those good spots as well. But at the same time, it just goes to show he is quite solid. And if I look back at Rumble memories, I don't see him getting easily eliminated. It's always quite a big deal when Triple H does get eliminated.
And he's only won it once as well, 2002.
And that was, I think, the longest that anyone has survived in the Rumble to win it.
Triple H?
I think so.
Are you sure?
I think so.
I'm not certain. I think Rey Mysterio holds the record for longest stint in the Rumble itself.
It could be. Well, I have to double check.
Something like that. I mean,
sorry, I think what it is the Rumble that Triple H won was the longest in duration.
Gotcha. That's more plausible.
Yeah.
Okay, well, that's good. Well, there we go. And of course, the winner was the man who's won it so many times before. It is, of course, Mr. Glenn Abbott once again.
Should we just call him Dean Douglas?
Shall we just call Glenn Abbott Dean Douglas?
Yeah, I mean, it's absolutely pathetic because this guy got it wrong yesterday, and I had to point him in the right direction. So, again, I'm not sure. I think we have to start making this rule as the first answer that counts. Okay,
because a couple of people did get it right afterwards, but Glenn was in there first, and he did get it right. So, I think it's fine. Let's not split hairs. Glenn Abbott, you are, of course, the Dean Douglas Award winner. Once again, congratulations, buddy. Matt, before we give you the question of the day, we're going to give you the match of the day. I hope you guys watched the match I recommended yesterday, which was, of course, Yokozuna and the British Bulldog versus Shawn Michaels and Diesel. Irman, do you have a match of the day?
I always have a match of the day.
Let's hear it.
And my match of the day is TLC 2 between Edge and Christian, Matt Hardy, Jeff Hardy, and the Dudley Boys.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah, you need to watch that.
Yeah, for sure. Absolutely.
And that's just for that spot that Edge does off the top of the ladder while Matt Hardy's
the
hanging
spear,
off.
isn't it? He does a spear while he's...
You got to watch it. You got to watch it. One of the best ever tag team matches.
That's brilliant. Okay, well, I tell you what, since you bring that up, let's talk about my question of the day, which I'm going to tell, since we're talking about WrestleMania and record-breaking attendances for WrestleMania, okay? And I've actually given this away in this podcast, so if you've listened, you should know this already, okay? Now, WWE famously reports the WrestleMania 3 crowd. Live attendance at WrestleMania 3 is supposedly 93,000 people. But according to information that's come from the company, and everybody is widely known, what is the real number of paid attendees at WrestleMania 3? That's what I want to know. Okay, I think I've given it away during this podcast. So if you were listening closely, you should already know. Easy Dean Douglas Award there. Brilliant.
Fantastic.
Yeah, great. Well, guys, thank you so much for joining us once again. And remember, you can always tweet us your opinions and email us your opinions. Tweet us at PlayByPlay123. Email us questions at playbyplay123.co.uk. And yeah, that's pretty much it. Thanks again for joining us. Oh, and of course, like our Facebook page, which is facebook.com/PlayByPlayWrestling. Thank you so much again for joining us. We're going to be back tomorrow with another episode of Play by Play, the daily wrestling podcast. Until then, from myself, from Arman.
Triple threat match. Michaels, Taker, Austin. That's what we need. 105,000 tickets.
Okay.
WrestleMania 32.
There you go. There's your final word. And for me, it's just a simple goodbye.